Yeah, we're really excited about this opportunity here with the game against Oklahoma tomorrow. They've got a really good team, veteran team. Really important for us on the defensive end to, establish ourselves in this game early. Obviously, coming off of Baylor on the offensive end, for us, we need to continue to get in the paint. Our guys did a really good job of that, but then we got to make shots. We got to make layups. We got to make free throws and make more of our three-point shots, which I think our guys will. But our message to them going into this game and coming off of our last game has been, to have a mentality of continuing to fight together, staying united, staying together. So incredibly important when you get into conference play. But definitely excited to be at home in this game and to put our best foot forward.
Questions, please.
You mentioned the guys sticking together, and that's something that Matt kind of talked about a little bit after the Baylor game. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing him sort of, take the lead on that from a player standpoint?
He is. I mean, you always want more from guys, but I tell you what, he's grown a lot, and he's learning to assert himself more. He's such a guy that cares about people and cares about his teammates. There are times, especially when you go through adversity, when what we need from him is to be not necessarily less caring, but more assertive and aggressive. And he's learning that. I mean, he's learning to get outside of his comfort zone with that. I'm really proud of him in how open he's been about that. And quite frankly, we need him to continue to lead on the floor and lead on the floor the best he absolutely can. He was not 100% in the Baylor game. He hadn't practiced all week. He was really, really sick. And even the day after, he was just kind of starting to feel like himself. So looking forward to having him back out there at full strength.
Along the same lines, have you seen anything out of Jericho in the last 48 hours that made you think that he can build on what happened Saturday?
Well, not just the last 48 hours. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But I'll tell you what, he really wants to be good. I mean, I know that he may kind of come across with a stoic look and a non-emotional look, but that young man has a lot of emotions and strong feelings inside that he's still in the process of learning how to communicate. But he definitely wants to be great. He takes pride in being the best player he can be. He's come a long way with his ability to go out and demonstrate that. But at the same time, our need for him to demonstrate that is higher than ever.
Yeah, it would seem to me that he would get more confidence out of those two post-move dunks than maybe anything else that happened in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Jericho loves to dunk, and he's really good at it. That's part of the reason that we sometimes play him in that position where he's at the top of the key and he can drive and attack. And we want him to do that as much as possible. He leads our team in field goal percentage. So we continually are talking about how we can find ways to get him to take more shots and get more shots out of what we're doing on the offensive end. Part of that is his responsibility with sealing harder and calling for the ball. That's never been something that he's done great, but I think he's starting to learn. The more I do that, the more I'm going to get the ball.
When you look at the Baylor film, and especially when it comes to those offensive rebounds,
do
you feel like your team was out-hustled? Was it a lack of aggressiveness there?
Well, I think, I know, we spent a ton of time on rebounding yesterday, probably over an hour, and it's something that's going to continue to be a huge emphasis. It was a big emphasis going into that game because we knew how dangerous Baylor was there, but they did a better job going after those longer rebounds or some of the balls that were kind of up for grabs. Some of that is on our side, just owning, being better at, there's possessions where you got to block the other guy out, and then there's possessions where you just got to grab the ball. And those are not always the same, but understand the difference between those. And Baylor deserves a lot of credit for, the aggressiveness with which they played, but we certainly need to be better in that area.
How much did you get on the guards?
A lot. I mean,
Rebounding.
a lot of it, to be honest with you, is about those guys. I mean, Jericho got his fair share of rebounds. There was probably 4 or 5 more that he could have or should have got, but we can't expect him to get 18 rebounds a game. Our guards, they have to rebound down better. So if they're at the top of the key and the shot goes up, and really most teams send maybe, a team like Baylor, 3 guys to the offensive glass. We need to have 5 guys in there, and it's something that we practice a good amount, but it's something our guards absolutely have to do a better job carrying over. Now, we want to run the other way once we get the ball, but not until we get the ball.
In that game, do you look at a guy like, Mark Vital and say, look, this guy is maybe 6'5", 6'6", kind of an interesting build, but he just plays with tremendous energy throughout. Do you look at that, and maybe especially for the guards and wings, and say, hey, this is the kind of, passion, fervor we want you to play with for whenever you're on the court?
Well, Mark Vital's always been a unique player, even going back to before he got to Baylor. He has a real understanding of who he is. And, it's interesting, I think a couple games in a row now, he shot the first shot of the game from the corner from 3. And, it's interesting because, they've kind of obviously done that by design, but he also has a phenomenal buy-in to his role. So, it's interesting how he's said, I'm going to go do exactly what I need to do to affect my team and help my team. So absolutely, we use examples like that, with our guys in terms of, we don't necessarily have a guy that's physically made up exactly that way, but certainly the mindset he has is one that I think every team needs a guy like that.
Coach, with all the missed layups and missed open shots the other night, do you think that's a symptom of maybe guys being a little uptight, a little nervous? And if so, how do you get them to play a little bit more?
That's a great point. I mean, what we talk about all the time is we want our guys to play aggressive, confident, and loose. And that's a combination that, when you look at the best teams at the biggest moments, they're able to do that. Now, you can't necessarily snap your fingers and make yourself that way as a player. You have to, first and foremost, in practice that way. There's mental training that you do to kind of get your mind right. But when the game starts, that's the most important time to have that mindset. And I did think that, there was a few of our guys that when a couple shots didn't go in for them early, our guys really want to do well. I mean, they want to go shoot the ball well and score the ball. I thought Jace and Andrew really, allowed that to affect them in the game. And we talked about they have to be tougher minded than that, and they know that, and they are very motivated to go into our next game.
I'm really curious about Hepa. You put him in the game to give him more chance, but then he passes on the shots that he's supposed to take.
Yeah.
Right. How much you guys have gone over that with him? And
he's the old saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
And I think the first shot of the game he had from the corner and it went in and out. But that's going to happen sometimes. And he's a good shooter, so we want him to take open looks. He's also a good ball mover, so we want him to create movement for us and flow for us. And he did at times. And he's always going to be a guy, Brian, that helps the team more than maybe his individual stats indicate. Last year, for instance, he had the best offensive efficiency on our team. You never really would have thought that based on his own percentages, but he helps in different ways when he's out there. But certainly, we told him after the game, we said, number one, you have to get more rebounds than that at 6'9", if you're out there for that long. Number two, you have to shoot the ball when you're open with a mentality of, I believe in myself, I'm going to jump up and shoot it and live with the result.
Have you and Neil talked recently just about the offense, after the Providence game and the Baylor game? I mean, you guys still think everything is is you want to keep doing what you're doing schematically, or are you like, do we need to make changes to what's going on, or
Well, we're constantly evolving stuff. It might not be, something that you can see, but hopefully some of it is. But we just met this morning and talked about a few things we can do different. The first thing, to be honest with you, is who's in the game, because I think what you're doing on the offensive end, first and foremost, does have to be predicated on who's in. And, that's one of the areas where we need to really, really kind of solidify over the next, few games here is, who can go in there and play well for us, particularly, at the 4 position and kind of a rotation at some of the other positions. Because that does change how you play. I mean, you're not running the same thing necessarily if Gerald's in versus Kamaka. But there's certain things that that we've talked about that we'll emphasize. I won't get into details on the Oklahoma game, obviously, but that we'll emphasize going into this game that are huge kind of benchmarks that we have to go reach as a team. We've actually done much, much better at getting in the paint. Historically, and I think this is true for all teams, our points per possession is way higher when we've gotten into paint. In those 2 games you mentioned, it wasn't, even when we got in the paint. But I do think over time, if we can get in there, it will allow us to get to the foul line more, which is an area we certainly have to improve, and allow us to get more high-quality shots.
Look at Oklahoma, what kind of challenges do they present? And I guess sort of, what's the focus, what's the message for the guys heading in?
Well, in terms of challenges they present, they always, ever since, I've been here, they've always done a terrific job of taking advantage of matchups. And, that's a testament to Coach Kruger and his staff, and also a testament to their players. They have, they always seem to have some personnel that give you challenges or problems in different areas. Doolittle is one of those guys. You remember he came in here as a freshman and had a phenomenal game. He's putting together a heck of a senior season now, and he's a guy that is a challenge because he's unique in that at that size he could bring the ball down the floor for them. And then their other big is Manic, who also is very, very perimeter oriented. So they have a unique, at least with their starting group lineup, where you have 5 guys that can hurt you from outside. But they have pretty good size too. They start, I think everyone's 6'5" or bigger in their starting lineup. So they have some really good versatility, and they use that on the defensive end as well in terms of the way they play. Also, Reeves is a guy that, this is only his first year playing there, but he's, I believe, in his 3rd year of college, and really, really plays with confidence and aggressiveness. And just flat out brought them back in their last game against Kansas State when they were down. In terms of our mindset, the most important thing, again, is for our guys to be connected around an aggressive frame of mind, particularly at home, of just coming out with an aggressiveness to us and knowing that, hey, 4 minutes into the game, there'll be a media timeout. The score will be, whatever it is, but that aggressiveness needs to continue to build and mount until the final buzzer. Because these games, they're 40-minute games. And, even the other day at Baylor, as poorly as we shot, as poorly as we finished, and as tough as the free throws were, there we are. It's a 6-point game. If we can string together a couple stops and make a couple of those shots, then, it's a winnable game. So I think continuing to be aggressive, among a couple other points coming off of our last game, are the biggest themes that we've utilized with our guys.
When you evaluated the rebounding after Baylor, was it more of we just didn't have a collective group of 5 guys going after it, or was it more of the front court besides Jericho, or what did you think when you looked at that? Did you see more team rebounding? Absolutely.
Yeah, more team rebounding. We talked about that, I think, before you walked in, which is rebounding is, on the defensive end, is a 5-person endeavor. And, we told our guys we want 10 hands to the ball. And again, we really have put a ton of emphasis on transition offense, but that cannot and should not begin until we actually secure the ball. And there has been some rebounds lately where it's literally like in our hands until it's not. So I think some of our guys have said, okay, here we go, we're running the other way, but it has to be 1,000% secured. At the same time, any 5-man endeavor is made up of 5 men. You know what I mean? So each individual person has a job to do in that. And if a guy does not do his job, then it affects the group of 5. So we need Jace Febres to rebound more. We need Andrew Jones to rebound more, Matt Coleman to rebound more. We need those guards to contribute because a lot of times 3 of those guys are in the game.
How's Donovan coming along?
He's had a couple of his better practices. Last 2 practices, he's really, really talented, and he's going to be a very, very good player here. Just trying to continue to, build the habits in him and the mindset and the sturdiness in him to go into a game like tomorrow night and contribute to the team winning. But he certainly has the talent, and after a game like Saturday, it's really, really easy for any of us on our coaching staff or outside our coaching staff to say, well, shoot, throw Donovan in there, in that game. But he's got to continue to get sturdier in practice. The good thing is, knock on wood, hopefully he's good today. But I've seen a better look to him the last couple times out. It's a war mentally for a freshman. It's always harder than these guys think. Even the ones that play a lot. Even when it was a war for Mo Bamba mentally. But Donovan's going through that like every other freshman. In addition, he's really, really young for his, he turned 18 in September, so he's a year younger than a lot of guys. But his future is really bright. The key is for him to continue what he did yesterday, which is come in with a good frame of mind, control what he can control, and try to make his team in practice win.
Yeah, are you to the point where the guys you have in your rotation, this is kind of who you're going to roll with? And do you feel like you guys are past the time of a little bit of experimentation?
No, I think that the ideal at this time of year is to be to that point. But every team is different, and I think you always have to keep an open mind, watching guys in practice, watching the way guys develop.
And how they carry themselves?
Yeah, a lot of it, Brian, to be honest with you, is, and we try to really, really get these guys to understand. As freshmen, they'd never heard it until they got here, is literally what look do they have on their face? How much energy, what type of energy is coming from them? And sometimes that can hurt a guy's opportunity without him even knowing it. But we try to make that very, very clear. So, no, we're not at a point where it's set in stone, partially, to be honest with you, because we don't necessarily have, 6, 7, 8 guys that have demonstrated, hey, every night this is what you're going to get. So with that, being our present reality, there has to be, times where you take a look at other guys.
2 last ones, please. Is that something that I guess you've also touched on with Will and Kai and say, hey, obviously you guys are freshmen, still, steep growing learning curve and everything, but there are minutes available for you guys to seize if you do, this the right way, practice the right way, everything.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's tough for freshmen when they're not playing as much as they want to play. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they have to learn to ignore. Some of it's what's written. And then there's a category of things that they need to really, really sink their teeth into owning. Sometimes the importance of owning that stuff when circumstances aren't ideal is even higher than the importance when everything's going great. Now, when everything's going great, there's a different set of challenges. Jackson Hayes this time last year was starting to deal with, his name being on this projected this or that. So there was a different set of challenges with that, which he handled pretty well. But for these guys, there's definitely, there's going to be chances for them if they can continue to improve, because the thing about those three freshmen is they have major potential, and they're going to be really good in time. Unfortunately, none of the three of them is ready to be like a great player right now. If they were, they would be in the game a lot, because every team needs great players. But we're not down on where they are. We think that their future is really bright, and we want to develop them as fast as we can.
Do you have a guy right now that you can kind of lean on when you've got a game like Baylor and they're kind of extending a run a little bit? You can just point to this guy and say, hey, I need you to just toughen up and just go get a bucket or go to the free throw line. And if not, who would you prefer that guy kind of be? Just that run-stopping type of player.
It's a great question. I don't think that we have that as much as we would like to have that. You on our current team, you probably have to start with Matt. Now in that game, I don't know that he had the energy to do it just because of where he was physically. From a scoring standpoint, it can be Andrew when he's, in a good place. He wasn't necessarily, in his best place in that game. Courtney's a guy that we all know has it in him to be, just an ultimate competitor who can go out and, make a winning play like that in a crucial time. But, we're really just trying to kind of work him through, just adopting the mindset of being that when we need it all the time. And, he's just not all the way there yet. I do believe he can get there, but we're going to have to do that by committee this year. That's just the makeup of our team.